Hello, and welcome to the No Ceilings NBA Draft Show. Today is a deep dives episode, and it's a very special deep dives episode. I am your co-host, Nick Agar Johnson, and with me, as always, is my co-host, Paige Otto. Paige, are you ready to rumble?
Yeah, I'm super excited for this episode. I mean, we haven't done a second round mock ever, like just solely into second round mock. So, I mean, this is true sicko behavior, quoting the great Stephen Gillespie. So, we're channeling, I guess, our inner draft sicko. But yeah, I'm super excited for this.
Yeah, I think if we were doing true draft sicko, it would be bring back the old days of like 7 rounds in the NBA draft, and then it's like, okay, let's go round 5 through round 7.
Yeah, we're gonna be here until midnight. So,
Oh goodness, I hope not for both of our sakes. I mean, it'll be fun, but the whole human exhaustion thing and whatnot. But shall we get started? Jump right in.
yeah, let's do it.
All right, so as Paige teased up top, today we are doing something that we have never done before that is extremely different from every other deep dives episode we've done. So we are doing a second round mock draft, and that's exactly what it sounds like. So just a little bit of bookkeeping up top. This basically, we selected all of the 30 players in the first round of the No Ceilings Big Board that will be going up sometime between the podcast audio and video of this particular episode on Wednesday morning. So the 30 players who were taken in the first round are off the board, and we are jumping right in with the Memphis Grizzlies at pick number 31. And we decided before we started, through a very rigorous and time-tested process, that I would be making the first selection today, and then we'll be going back and forth from there. So anybody who has listened to this podcast or read anything I've written this year should be entirely unsurprised that I am going with Flory Badunga here for the Memphis Grizzlies. They don't have as much big man depth as you might think. And with Flory, I mean, he's someone who can plug a ton of gaps, sort of regardless of where the Grizzlies end up going forward. I mean, he was one of the best shot blockers, if not the best shot blocker in NCAA basketball this past season. I thought he showed a ton of really interesting creative stuff as a playmaker, especially when Darren Peterson was missing time. He got a lot more opportunity with the ball in his hands. And Flory is someone who, again, coming into his freshman season last year, was a top 20 recruit in his high school class and showed flashes of it last year, but hadn't really actualized it. And this year, he actualized it in a really impressive way. I mean, he's someone who can play alongside both Santi Aldama and Zach Edey. You worry a bit about the spacing, obviously, but the defense with those guys on the floor is going to be truly something else, something to behold. So obviously the first round of this exercise might sort of change where Memphis would go, but for the sake of this exercise, we're doing it that just the second round guys available. And Flory is someone who, I think we might touch on this later, but 28 of the 30 players on the first round for the most recent No Ceilings Big Board were players that I had in my first round, and Flory was the highest of the two guys who was not in the No Ceilings collective top 30. So this is a pretty easy pick for me. I'm quite happy with it. I think Flory is someone who would fit in a whole lot of places, but Memphis in particular, he's someone who can really shore up their big man depth.
Yeah, I mean, I love the pick. And I think I was surprised. I mean, obviously the new big board's coming out this week too, but that Flory wasn't in the back half of the first round, right? I mean, he's such a great ad. I mean, with the first pick of the second, right? I mean, you can't really go wrong with a high motor guy that's, over 7 foot and that the shot blocking capabilities that he has too. And then for my pick, the next round the clock with the 32nd pick. Nick, do you have any idea where I'm going to go here?
I have a few thoughts. I'm just glad that as the native New Yorker who's not a Knicks fan, I don't have to make this pick because that would go badly for me.
Yeah, so I mean, for looking back at my board, a few different prospects I could go here. I'm eyeing Billy Richmond a little bit, Terrace Reed, Henry Vasar, just because of that pick and pop ability. Knicks kind of need another center as well, just a lot of center depth, right, too. But I'm actually going to go Billy Richmond here, just because he was the highest available on my board. And what's better than one Josh Hart? Two Josh Hart, right? So, and another deep dives guy, right? I mean, we did a whole episode about him as well. Just really love his game, and he's been improving game after game for Arkansas, and he's a stat stuffer, right? Obviously, the shot's not there yet. I mean, he's shooting 26% from three, but the offensive two-way versatility that he has, I mean, it's such a great value get at the early second round. So yeah, I'm going to go Billy Richmond here.
Yeah, it makes a ton of sense. I mean, he's someone who maybe doesn't have as much offensive juice with the ball in his hands personally, but as you mentioned, what's better than one Josh Hart, two Josh Harts, and having someone who's that kind of athlete who commits that heavily on the defensive end of the floor, who will do all of the dirty work that is requested of him. He's certainly someone who will quickly become a fan favorite in New York. So yeah, I love the pick. I mean, it's hard to quibble with Billy Richmond at this point in the draft.
Yeah, I mean, I just love him. Like, I think he's going to do. I think if he goes to, I think fit's also very important for him. But if he's going to, New York, Detroit, just places that have that real grit to them and have like these diehard fan bases, like I could see him doing a lot better than we can even like predict he's going to be too. But yeah, I loved his game this year for Arkansas.
So now we move on to my New York team, the team that I actually used to cover in the Brooklyn Nets, and my Eastern Conference team back when I had enough time and energy to cover two NBA teams and all the prospects in the world. So I am torn here because there are a lot of different directions that would make sense for the Nets to go in. And, technically you can see on the screen that it says they picked AJ in the first round. I'm not going off that. I'm just going off the Nets roster, and maybe I'll regret that given the direction that I'm leaning with this pick. But I think I'm gonna go with. I'm torn between two guys.
Are you gonna do another?
I'm just gonna do it. What?
You're gonna do another guard?
See, that's what I'm struggling with. I'm really tempted to go with another guard here just because this team desperately needs scoring, and most of the best scoring options on the board right now are guards. But that's obviously not what this team needs, given the plethora of guards that they very recently took in last year's draft. I'm gonna swing for fences here. I'm gonna go with Zubia Ejiofor. Keep him in the New York area. He was spectacularly impressive for St. John's in their tournament run, but that's also been sort of the case with him all year. And yet another deep dives guy who we covered. I mean, again, this Nets team does need a lot of help offensively, and Zuby's not the guy I was considering was Malik Thomas, just as an absolute lightning electric kind of scorer type, but I think that the Nets could use a lot more help on the margin, especially given, we don't know what the situation is going to be with Michael Porter Jr. going forward. So having someone like Zuby to just do a lot of the big man dirty work, to be a sensational passer. I mean, going forward, the Danny Wolf, Zuby Ejiofor interior passing will be a marvel to watch. And, as Brooklyn's young guards continue to grow, I mean, these are second round guys. They're not going to be stepping on recent first round picks in theory and probably in practice. But I think that with all of the little things that Zuby can do around the margins, the Nets need more of that right now than they need another guard. So even though my biggest concern for them is the scoring, I think Zuby just fills enough of the gaps that I'm willing to take him here.
Yeah, no, I actually really like the pick, Nick. I think Zuby Ejiofor, I mean, he can plug and play in so many different places, right? I mean, what team doesn't need, Zuby Ejiofor, right? And with the Nets' younger guys, you got Jaeger Demon, Danny Wolf, right? And he's just going to come in and he can do a little bit of everything, right? He can play off the ball. He can attack the rim. He can rebound, right? And he can also be a huge playmaker for them too, even though they have, countless playmakers already on the team. But I think he's just going to be like a steady piece for them and a good foundation as the Nets kind of start to get out of this rebuilding phase in years to come.
All right, so because of the way that we did the order, you are now picking for the Kings. So I'm just warning you, be careful. That's all. Just,
The pressure's on. The pressure's on. I'm getting a little nervous.
I mean, the pressure isn't on, but it also is on. So, again, just be careful. That's all I'm saying.
So I'll do obviously my pick, right? But then I want to hear what you would have done, or unless we do the same thing. So
fair enough.
Okay, I actually am going to do Alex Caravan here.
Solid. Yeah, I mean, he would definitely have been on my in consideration list for this pick. I mean, the Kings have become very rapidly the worst three-point shooting team in the NBA, and he helps with that. And, in terms of being a connective piece, he helps with that. But I'm stepping on your toes here. Why are you going with Alex Caravan?
Yeah, I mean, besides the fact that he's just a sniper that the Kings need, right? He's also a proven winner, right? And he's a veteran. He's a leader. I mean, his number also got like in the rafters, right? For the Huskies, right? So, I mean, he is like a piece. Yes, he's, on the older side, right? But I think if you're getting an Alex Caravan with a 34th pick for your team that desperately needs 3-point shooting, I think it's a no-brainer, right? If he's still on the board. And I think he's kind of an early second round pick that, you're going to look back in a redraft, be like, how did this guy fall to, the mid 30s, right? I could easily see him going to redraft in, the 20s or, even higher. But I think he brings a lot of leadership to this team and also just winning too, right? Because, I mean, as you know, Nick, you guys are kind of, kind of going through the ringer a little bit. So I think he just brings a constant, steady piece for them that can provide value in, obviously the shooting aspect, but also in, the basketball IQ aspect too. I mean, obviously he had that much confidence in giving that ball to Braylon Mullins to beat Duke, right? Because he could have, got that shot off easily, right? But he had that faith and trust in Braylon Mullins to get that shot off, and he made one of the most iconic shots in the history of March Madness. So I think his just awareness on the court and his high IQ will play dividends for this Kings team, especially with, pairing with the big three, whichever one lands in the Kings' lap. I think this is a great pick for them.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, there's also just one more added element that I want to throw in, which is the Kings are one of the few teams that have proven that they will not shy away from older players if they think they could help them. And that has far more paid off than it has hurt in recent years. So yeah, love the pick. I think you're off the hook for now.
Thank God.
All right. So, San Antonio at 35. This is an interesting one for many reasons. Obviously, the Spurs are in a little bit of a different spot than the four teams that went before them in this exercise. You know what? I'm just going to do it. I'm going to go with Dame Sarr for them. He is someone who I have struggled with my evaluation of him more than almost anybody else in this draft class. And the reason for that is purely that he is like genuinely potential all defense caliber. And I'm just very, very worried about what the offense looks like. If he goes to San Antonio, that's nowhere near as much of a problem, right? I mean, they're going to have him and Carter Bryant be the chaos duo off the bench. There's going to be absolutely no way to get around those two, at the point of attack. I mean, combine them with Steph Castle, Dylan Harper up front, and, obviously Victor Wembanyama coming in behind. I think that the Spurs are the best match of being able to get the best out of Sarr while also being able to hide the holes that currently exist in his game. So, again, I do have Sarr at the very tail end of my first / early second. I believe he was 31st on the board that I submitted for No Ceilings. So, right about this range on my board. But he is someone who, even more so than most prospects, it will be very heavily dependent on fit in terms of how successful he is. And I think putting him in San Antonio, again, it's just going to unlock the best of what he can do defensively for a team that, as long as he stands in the corner and hits 32% of his threes like he did this past year, if he can be the kind of defender that I think he is, that'll be fine. And I'm hopeful for more than 32%, to be clear, but I don't think they need much more than that from him in a way that a lot of other teams in the early second, again, the 4 teams prior to him, don't have the kind of insulation that would maybe help him be the best version of himself.
Yeah, I mean, just to keep this short and sweet with the Spurs, I mean, why wouldn't you just load up on like defensive freaks whenever you can that can, hit a corner 3 at 35% when you can in the second round. I mean, that's as simple as it gets. Because when we talked about Dame Star, I believe it was like a little bit earlier this year, November, December, we had a lot of questions. And I think as the conference play went on, especially March Madness too, he's shown a lot more on the offensive end and also with his rebounding as well, and just having a little bit more of a motor to him as well that I've seen. And I loved his play so far heading in, obviously, to the combine and to the draft. So I think all signs, point to it being, a possibility that he does get to that level of, and, at least shooting 33-35%, from 3 at like 2 or 3 attempts per game, but being an all-star, caliber or all defensive, defensive player in the NBA. So yeah, no, I think that's a great pick.
Glad to hear it. All right, so we're up with the Thunder now.
Yeah. Oof, okay.
What to pick for the team that doesn't need
Yeah,
picks?
yeah. What to pick? Obviously, we're ignoring this, but I mean, I could see that happening. Bennett Sturts for sure.
Oh yeah.
Hmm. Let's see. I feel like, I mean, it's harder when you have so much possibilities. Like,
I
any
feel like I know where you're going to end up, but I'm not going to say anything to
okay,
bias you in that
okay.
direction.
So I'm in between, um, I'm in between 2 or 3 guards. Did you think I was going to say that?
No, actually. So now I'm even more intrigued than I was a few seconds ago.
Um, hmm. Okay, I could either go with Tyler Tanner or I was actually thinking Terrace Reed as well. I just think Tyler Tanner would be a great fit in OKC, and I think he's just the type of player that I could see him just developing like into a star of like being in OKC, being around the core that they have and just learning from them, taking in everything they have to offer, and especially on the defensive end too, right? So I think I could definitely see him, just adding more depth. I mean, the Thunder, they're so loaded, right? And especially at the guard position, but I think just having him to pull when they need it, like he will be able to step up in those moments. And then obviously Terrace Reed too. Just because of, I mean, obviously they have Chet, right? And they have iHeart, but I think just having him come off the bench of like this high motor guy that can, put up in college at least 30 points and 27 rebounds. Like he's just a menace and he's just a ferocious shot blocker as well. And he moves so well, right?
Yeah.
And I think he could just be a great addition as a center depth-wise. Actually, I think I am going to go Terrace Reed instead.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, it makes all the sense in the world.
Yeah. Cool.
Hard to argue with. Also, again, very much not where I thought you were going with that one. So
Okay.
I will keep that to myself because you will probably be picking that player very shortly.
Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough.
So, Chicago Bulls. Now, this is a tough one to figure just because this team is a tough one to figure. And so that makes, I don't know. I mean, I'm very strongly considering Tyler Tanner. I also don't think that Chicago is a team that's likely to take him, given that they're still running the second chance for Rob Dillingham version of events. So, they also have a ton of bigs, but none of them are actually all that large, which makes this more difficult. And you picking Terrace Reed also makes this quite a bit more difficult. I think I'm gonna go with Corey's. If Corey's listening to this, he's gonna absolutely despise me for this one. But I'm gonna go with Henry Vesar. Give him a little bit of shooting, a little bit of passing from the big man spot. Again, they don't have a true 7-footer on the roster right now, and Henry Vesar is a true 7-footer. I do worry about the defense. I also think that given the personnel on this Bulls squad, the next good version of the Chicago Bulls is probably like third in offense and 20th in defense anyway. And so, maybe that would mean they shouldn't load up on that kind of player that's just going to continue to drive them in that direction. But I mean, obviously they have a passing virtuoso with Josh Giddey, who's, getting more and more touches as time goes on. And Buzelis is, he's had it up and down, but certainly mostly up first 2 years in the NBA. And clearly he's a piece that they're going to continue to build around going forward. It's interesting because, after Terrace Reed and Vesar, a lot of the big man options are going to be further down my board. And given, Chicago does have bigs, but they don't have like big bigs. Again, they don't have a true 7-footer on the roster right now. So I think that Vesar's combination of shooting and passing will really help unclog some of the offense that they're running. And in terms of other options at that spot, I mean, you taking Terrace Reed off the board right before this does hurt, but I think Vesar makes a lot of sense for Chicago. Sorry, Corey.
I mean, hopefully like Corey comments or like lets us know in Slack. But I think Vesar's like a great piece for them at almost the 40th pick, right? So 37, right? I think he brings a little bit of, because their direction is kind of confusing because they've just been mediocre for however long it's been. It feels a lot longer than it probably is, right? And I think I think that's a good pick. And I think in the second round, you kind of have to just go with fit, kind of, or just who's the best player available, obviously, at this point of the draft. And I think he still has a lot of upside to still work with in some areas. But I mean, if you have a 7-footer that can pass, shoot, and can rebound the hell out of the ball, I mean, yeah, he's an easy pick for me. And then next up with the 38th pick, the Clippers. I feel like this is a little hard for me, Nick. I feel like I could go the easy route or like take a swing. But I want to know your thoughts.
I'm interested that you're looking at guards right now.
Well, I was just clicking around.
Oh, okay. Well, never mind then. My point becomes moot almost immediately. I just actually quickly wanted to go back to what you just said because I thought it was a fantastic point and one that needs to be emphasized more here, especially given the churn at the bottom of NBA rosters that has become sort of the norm over the last few years. You kind of have to find a role and get playing time pretty much right away.
Yeah.
And so drafting someone who there isn't sort of an obvious, I know, what role this guy's going to play. Like if there isn't an obvious sort of 8th to 10th spot in the rotation for someone, then it's probably not, maybe a swing for the fences pick, sure. But again, especially when it comes to second round picks, those guys used to get 2 years and now it feels like they get maybe one, like maybe 1.5. But if there isn't a reason to think that someone's going to get playing time, they're going to have to prove something awful fast or they're going to be on their second team pretty fast.
Yeah, for sure. I think, I feel like this is harder than I'm making it. But I mean, that's how the draft goes, right?
There you go. Yep.
That should be on a shirt. Maybe we'll make some merch about that. That's how the draft goes. Coming soon to our store.
At Corey.
Yeah. So I'm actually in between Krivas and Milan Masilovic, actually. I feel with Masilovic, obviously you get shooting, right? But you also get length on the perimeter as well that has that connectivity. Obviously not playmaking wise, right? But with Krivas, I mean, you get a 7'2" monster that on the glass can really set the table for everything. Has a high motor, is a winning player, is a game changing player that can kind of bring that length and size to the Clippers. And the 2-man game, the high low action of him and Brook Lopez would be awesome to watch in LA. So I think I'm actually going to do Krivas here.
Yeah. I was, as you were going through names, I was like, I think Krivas is definitely the one. They really don't have all that much big man depth.
Yeah.
Even with Brook Lopez, who I have followed.
I mean,
yeah, I mean, Brook Lopez is the OG. I mean, he was one of the very few fun parts of being a Nets fan in the early 2010s, but he's also, what, 38 at this point?
Yeah. So, I mean, this is a perfect opportunity for Krivas, or, if they end up going, a different center out. I mean, obviously, if Terrace Reed was still there too, right? A good young piece at the center position, I think could go a long way for them to pair with, obviously, Kawhi, Darius Garland, right? So I think the Clippers, they'd be one of the most fun teams up in the upcoming years, just because of a lot of moving pieces all the time with them. So it's kind of hard to keep track.
Yeah. All right. So I'm on the board with the Rockets now, and it's a struggle to figure out where to go, because what I think has been the biggest problem for the Rockets this year is also not necessarily a long-term problem, in the sense that, in theory, Fred VanVleet is going to come back, and then they're going to have a true point guard running the offense again in a way that they kind of don't right now. So I'm very tempted by Tyler Tanner. I'm also wondering about just how much this team might need him, given that, again, Van Vliet is coming back. Reed Shepherd's obviously had his breakout 6-man of the year kind of season. The guard depth outside of those two is not fantastic. So, you know what? I'm going to go with something slightly different. I'm going to go with Ryan Conwell here. Just give him a mature shooter. You're nodding your head. You seem to.
Yeah. I was like, I feel like he's a perfect fit for the Rockets here, or what they need. So I'm glad he picked him here.
Yeah, I mean, he's an older player, granted, which is going to bump him down some boards, but certainly for a Rockets team that is, a playoff contender, that's a lot higher up than most of these sort of typical early second round teams. Although it's been funny because we had 4 awful teams to start and then 4 really good teams to follow it. So, it doesn't quite work for the logic. But yeah, I mean, Conwell, he's not huge, but he's a little bit bigger than Shepherd, Van Vliet, Aaron Holiday, etc. And he's not a point guard, and he's not exactly someone you want running the offense. But you have him put up shots. He plays a very mature, in control kind of game in a way that it's very easy. Going off the previous statement of what you brought up, of it's very easy to see him becoming the 9th man for Houston pretty much right away, and establishing himself in a way that cements himself as part of their longer term plans.
Yeah. And you mentioned, his maturity. I mean, he had 4 different teams in 4 years, right? And each year he improved. And just the way obviously his shooting, right? But just how he is with the ball. He's so strong with the ball, just the way he moves and how he takes care of the ball, his body, right? He's an NBA player that can go in and, get 10 to 20 minutes a game, 10 to 15 points. I mean, he's like that microwave scorer off the bench that can get hot in a hurry and make you pay for it too. So I think the Rockets are in need of kind of that extra juice off the bench that, gives them life in the second rotation. I think Ryan Conwell could be a great fit for that.
All right. So number 40, Boston Celtics. Who you got?
Let's see here. Interesting. I feel yeah, as we get farther down the draft, I mean, you mentioned it. It's like, oh yeah, these really great teams are like, they have the picks in the second round. You're like, well, they could have this, but like that guy's coming back, but that guy's like, whatever. So it makes it a little bit more difficult, but
It's tough to pick for a team like Boston, who their lineups are pretty established at this point.
Yeah, right. So I feel like I'm trying to think of, their most recent draft picks too, like, Jordan Walsh. Obviously he's not on the Celtics anymore, but Baylor Shireman, Hugo, obviously kind of coming into his own this year for the Celtics. So just thinking about, how their roles have been with the Celtics and, their first few years in the league. This one's a little bit more difficult than I thought, actually. I feel, it's staring me right in the face, Nick.
Mm-hmm. This is what I thought you were going to do 4 picks ago.
Okay. I'm going to go Ivan Karchetkov.
Yeah.
I think, honestly, I didn't even do this on purpose. I think this is like a Celtics pick right here with him. I mean, I tweeted out when they were playing in the Elite Eight, but his game is so underrated, right? I mean, he's always in the right places at the right time. He has awesome cutting slashing ability. He's a great connected piece, has that two-way upside, and also have that size and length to him, right, too. And I think with him, I think he's a great sixth through eighth man, right? Obviously for the Celtics to come in and get valuable minutes. And I think for him too, he's just a glue guy that every single team needs. And especially in the second round, if you're getting a guy like Ivan Karchetkov, I would go away from this draft and second round and be like, okay, he's gonna, play valuable minutes for us, right? It's not like you're gonna think about how do we play him? How does he get in? How does he get minutes? You're going to know what you get with him, right? So, yeah, I think this is a good pick for the Celtics here at 40.
Yeah, again, I thought this pick was coming from you a few picks ago, but it makes a ton of sense. I don't view him as the same caliber of player defensively just because very few people are, but there is a lot of Hugo in his game in terms of just absolutely relentless defensive effort. And again, it's one of those things where pretty much all rookies struggle on the defensive end, but there are a few of them, and I think Dame Sarr is one of the examples, someone who's already gone off the board, but there are a few players where it's like, okay, maybe year 2, year 3, this guy figures it out, and then there are a few players who's like, okay, so by game like 30 or so, this guy's going to be a great defender, and I think Karchetkov is much more likely to be in the figures it out mid-rookie year rather than like takes a few years to figure it out. And there are some great defensive players who've taken more than a year or two to figure it out, but with a team like the Celtics, you might not stick around in the rotation if it takes until year 2. So, yeah, hard to quibble with this pick, and I certainly won't be the one to do it.
No, I agree, and especially his run in March Madness too. I mean, 18 points, 10 rebounds, 9 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists, and I mean, he was also averaging 2.6 stocks per game too, right? Obviously, his 3-point shooting in the lower 30s, right? But I mean, his shot looks good. He's shooting 72% from the free throw line, and he's getting there at an effective rate. And I think he has a lot of upside as well. So yeah, excited for the Celtics here at 40 to get him.
All right, we're gonna take a quick break and be back with the rest of the second round right after this. All right, I am back on the board for the Miami Heat here. Yeah, this is a weird one to try and figure out because it's again a similar sort of deal of who on this squad who maybe isn't playing that much right now, whether due to injury or, other issues, is going to be a bigger part going forward. I don't know. I mean, I guess, yeah, I have to remember that Tyler Hero actually is back from his injury at this point, and obviously, I'm not going to draft over my guy Davion Mitchell in any way, shape, or form. But this is an interesting squad to figure out. I mean, even though I just said I'm not going to draft over my guy Davion Mitchell, they really don't have. I guess they have. Yeah, they have Kasparis.
Yeah.
And yeah, they don't have much big man depth behind Bam and I guess technically Vlad Golden. Um, hmm. Yeah, I'm gonna do it. I'm going to go with my guy Alex Condon here. Just big dude, fills a ton of gaps. I don't think he's a what was it, 19%, 16% 3-point shooter like he was this year. I also think, given that this is year 3 of him not being a willing shooter, that that's probably not going to be a big part of his profile going forward. But I mean, him as a gap filling defender, having someone like Bam as the drop guy, having Condon cover a lot of ground. We talked in the Ruben Chignello episode about how Chignello's been the guy switching on people a lot more this year, but that was Condon last year, and obviously that team won a national championship, so it worked out pretty well for them, despite Condon not exactly having his best effort in the championship game. It feels like a very odd situation with Kel'el Ware. I don't quite know what to make of that, but having someone who's much more of a defensive, passing focused big to just sort of come in, plug a lot of gaps, try and make things make sense. I wasn't quite sure where to go with this pick for Miami, but I mean, getting a guy who played just up the road at Florida is certainly going to make a significant portion of that fan base happy. And moreover, in terms of the basketball fit, I mean, if I had to pick a weak area for this team, it really is the big man depth. And so bringing in someone who can be a third or fourth big for this squad, I think would be quite a good pickup for them at 41.
No, yeah, I agree. I was just like locked in on my pick at 41 with the Spurs. So, I mean, yeah, they're up again, right? So
here we go again.
Here we go again. Run it back. Dame at 35. So, I mean, we mentioned it of just, getting as much of defensive freaks that have that offensive upside as much as possible. So, I mean, there's a few options, right, that you could go here, but I think you kind of have enough of those at this point,
Sure.
right? And kind of just bring in a guy that you have so much defensive help for him. How about let's get Milan Masilovic in San Antonio?
There we go. I mean, hard to argue with a guy who's making literally 50% of his threes.
And a lot of the concerns with him are on the defensive side, right? But I mean, look at who he has, backing him up, right? And I think with him, just because he is one of the most dominant shooters in college basketball this season, and he can shoot off, screens, movement, he can curl off them, he can, run to the basket as well. Doesn't have, the best sample size shot diet at the rim, right? But he does have that mid-range game to his bag too. So I think him going to San Antonio with the 42nd pick, it makes a lot of sense. I don't personally think he'll be available this late, Nick, just because of his offensive upside. I mean, there is a possibility. I think if anything, he would go a little bit earlier in the second round. I'm not there yet with him in the first round, just personally, but I think if San Antonio gets him at 42, a lot of people are going to be like, how did we let him slip to the Spurs here? So I'm going to pick him here.
Yeah, I mean, it makes a lot of sense. The flip side of having all those defensive freaks is that you can cover for someone who you're very concerned about the defense. And there really isn't much better coverage in the world defensively than Victor Wembanyama. So I think they'll be able to be fine with Milan not necessarily being the best defensive player in the world.
Yeah. And you have Carter Bryant, obviously, Steph Castle. So, yeah. I mean, and the Spurs. I mean, I have them going pretty far this year. So, we'll see.
Yeah, they're not an easy team to bet against. So I guess I'm back up with Brooklyn here. I'm wondering if I do what I was considering doing with the 33rd pick and just get some offensive firepower in the door for a team that really needs it.
I think you just have to jump the gun.
Yeah, I'm going to do it. I'm going to take Malik Thomas for them. Mm-hmm. Just give him microwave scoring.
If you didn't.
There we go. Okay, so good. I feel even better about that pick than I did 2 seconds ago. Yeah, I mean, just get someone who's not, point guard sized, right? Like a little bit bigger. It's interesting just in the sense that over the last few weeks, Ben Siroff has been really showing out for the Nets. It is one of those things where I'm not quite sure how much of it is genuine improvement over the course of the season versus, playing March basketball for a team that's desperately trying to lose basketball games. So I'm not taking too much away from it in terms of, hey, we can't, draft over him, right? I'm not that sure of his place in the long-term setup for Brooklyn, but I mean, again, this is a team that has scored in the 60s in games this year. So getting someone like Thomas who can come off the bench, who can just put up shots, get hot in a hurry, make a real difference for the offense off the bench. I mean, he was heavily in consideration for me at 33. So picking him up at 43 here, I think is a really solid get for Brooklyn. Again, it'll be interesting to see how they sort of mix together all the plethora of guards that they have. But the Nets really need offensive help, and I think Malik Thomas can provide that.
Yeah, I love the pick there. I mean, as I mentioned, I was going to take him if you didn't. So, and I think at 44, Kings are up again. I took Alex Carabin with 34. I think when you get to this point in the draft, Nick, 44, you kind of have to do best available on your own personal board. Personally, I think, and how much fit matters too here as well, because you mentioned kind of the turnaround of actually, NBA players that get to that second contract. More than a cup of coffee in the NBA is so high, especially in the second round, right? So it's kind of like, okay, if I'm going to draft you in the second round, I really need to know what your role is going to be. And I think here at 44, the Kings need a lot of help, right? Obviously shooting. I think just stacking up shooting is kind of the way to go here. And also I want to go for height, but I'm also kind of in a pickle of, do I go for, who is personally on my board at the highest? So kind of in a battle there, but don't want to take, hours on the 44th pick. So I think I'm just going to bite the bullet and do Tyler Tanner here.
Yeah, makes total sense. I mean, it's not necessarily the biggest need for the Kings, just given how terrible their shooting is. But since trading away De'Aaron Fox, they have tried a lot of things at point guard, and they haven't quite worked. I mean, obviously, they moved off Dennis Schroeder literally immediately. I mean, not literally, but, pretty close to immediately. He didn't even finish his first year of his 3-year, $45 million contract, which says a lot more than you would like. And much though Russell Westbrook has been far better than many, including myself, expected, he's not a long-term solution at point guard. So, yeah, I mean, I think it makes all the sense in the world.
Yeah, and I think with Tyler Tanner, I think he's been one of the hottest names that I've seen since doing all this too, that has just continued to rise in terms of, our minds at No Ceilings, but also in other, draft analysts and spaces minds as well. So I think with the Kings here, I mean, also kind of going into an older type team just at the forefront with the Kings too. I think he can learn a lot from obviously DeMar DeRozan, Zach LaVine, obviously Russell Westbrook. But I mean, Russell Westbrook, I don't know if he'll be there next year, right? So I think this is a great spot for him. And I also, from last year to this year, one of the most skills that he has that has surprised me the most is, how he's been getting to the line and converting at the rim with him being 6 foot, right? So I think blending that into his high IQ and his shooting capabilities and just his athleticism too. I mean, the amount of dunks he has at 6 foot too, Nick, I mean, he's an athlete, right? So adding that to shooting, playmaking, and this guy can convert at the rim and get to the free throw line, I'm sold at 44 with him.
Yeah, again, I think it's a great pick. It fills multiple needs, which unfortunately the Kings have multiple needs, but he certainly covers those gaps. Somehow we are back to the San Antonio Spurs. This might seem like a bit of a dirty play, but I'm going to make it anyway. I'm going to go JT Toppin. I think they can wait out his recovery from his knee injury, and getting someone like JT Toppin at 45, if he comes back even a fragment of who he used to be, then I think that's a spectacular pickup. And I mean, he's someone who, is an absolute menace on the glass. That will be very helpful to have someone other than Wemby and Steph Castle who are pulling down a ton of rebounds. And, he's not like floor spacer, but he's got a shot. He's not completely sort of helpless when he gets stuck in those in-between areas. He's not a fantastic, but more than good enough passer for the kind of scoring engine that he is. I can just imagine like 2 years from now, the Spurs coming off title number 1 and JT Toppin is the 6th man and he's putting up like 18 points a game and doing an even better Keldon Johnson impression than Keldon Johnson himself has been doing. I mean, I do wonder how many teams are going to be willing to wait. I mean, to be honest, the reason I thought it was kind of cheating is because at this point I kind of assume he's just going back to school.
Yeah.
Get another paycheck from Texas Tech to, rehab and then maybe come back, for March Madness end of the year. Probably not. But if he does stay in the draft, I think the Spurs are one of the few teams that can wait on him and have a very clear place for him to slot in once he comes back. So that would be huge if he can be even 80% of who he used to be, because, I mean, he was a clear first-round pick for me each of the last 2 seasons before he got hurt. So getting him at 45, waiting on him a year, and then having him come back and be a part of the rotation, I think that's a potentially huge pickup for them.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, as you mentioned, I mean, getting him at 45, you can't beat that just because of he can do a little bit of everything. And I think just his scoring depth too. I mean, okay, we have JT Toppin coming off the bench for us. Awesome. I mean, you can't really complain about that. And it's so easy to have a clear-eyed view of what his role would be in San Antonio, which is huge when you're, at 45. So I'm up at 46. Orlando Magic. I don't think I'm going to take too long on this, but honestly, I mean, the Magic have been up and down this year, right? I mean, a lot of questions with Paolo Banchero. Not really like anything too exciting with their season this year, right? There's not a lot of points that you can dictate of like, okay, like they have momentum going, right? They have kind of a vast storyline that you can follow throughout the year and kind of check in and be like, oh, like they kind of went on a run, right? And I think with Orlando, I'm going to go. I don't know, actually. I just need to scout around a little bit.
Yeah. It has not been an inspiring season. They feel more like a team that's looking forward to Cancun than any of the other playoff teams.
That's the perfect way to say that, Nick. I kind of went on a rant about it, but I mean, you summed it up pretty well. I think I'm just going to go Ibuka Okori right here. I think he will probably go back to school. So maybe it's the cap out on my end. But I think just having him, he was also the highest on my board as well. So I think he has a lot more upside than we're going to come heading into the 50s, right? And to the later end of the second round. So I think getting Ibuka Okori that he's just so meticulous with the ball in his hands, Nick. And I think he's also, he's 6'2", 185, but I mean his wingspan and his shoulders, like he has a good foundational base. He's strong with the ball. The way he can contort his body at the rim. I mean, I think he's going to do well for a team like Orlando. And I think at 46 is kind of not a no-brainer, but it makes sense. So I'm going to go him here.
For sure. I mean, we're in the range of the draft at this point where, like,
yeah,
if we're being upfront about it, the vast majority of these guys are probably going to go back to school and try and become a first-round pick next year, which, is part of why I didn't feel as bad about picking Toppin, because, his might be injury-related, but he's certainly not the only person in this range who I think if you told JT Toppin, okay, you're going to be the 45th pick. If you told Ibuka Okori, okay, you're going to be the 46th pick, they're probably going to say, cool, thanks, I'm going back to school.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, 47 Phoenix Suns. Now it's my turn to be under the gun. Man, I fully admit that I was not expecting the Suns to be anywhere near as good as they've been this year, and I think a significant part of the credit for that obviously goes to Jordan Ott, coming in as a first-time head coach, but a very experienced coach sort of around the league, and getting this team that looked so miserable last year to, be a cohesive whole that's been as good as they have on the defensive end. I mean, yeah, there's a lot to love about Phoenix's future in a way that I really would not have felt comfortable saying about this team as recently as like 6 months ago. The flip side, of course, is that makes it a lot harder to pick for them. On the one hand, they don't have all that much big man depth behind the oft-injured Mark Williams and the now starting to play Kaman Malawach, but even still, they don't have much big man depth there. The problem is that we've drafted pretty much all of the centers that I like at this point, which makes it more of a difficult exercise. Yeah. You know what? I'm tempted. I'm torn between highest guy on my board and guy that I think makes the most sense for Phoenix. And I think I'm just going to go with guy that makes the most sense for Phoenix and go with Ruben Chinyelu here. Just another big, covers a ton of ground defensively, makes life easier for everybody else on that end of the floor. Absolutely ridiculous rebounding. I mean, it's a situation where, again, this is a bit further down in terms of, do we not have him? That's awkward. Well, either way, I can continue to vamp as I talk about him as someone who, again, this team's evolution has been how much they've improved defensively, and honestly, how unexpected that improvement was defensively. And, Malawach being a longer-term project is one thing. Him being the recent 10th overall pick is another thing. But even still, I mean, Mark Williams is not someone I'm unfortunately betting on health-wise. So I think just getting another big who can, again, cover a ton of ground defensively, help out on the glass, and just be a third big man for this team going forward, whether or not Malawach, turns into a top-tier player like his draft status would portend, I think either way they could use another big man in the fold. So,
yeah, no, I agree. And I think this year has just been a breath of fresh air, honestly, just having a group of guys that just want to play basketball and like win games and have that mentality. I mean, Bouye has been awesome for us. Jordan Goodwin, awesome. We have those glue guys back that we've been missing, and they've been playing dividends for us. So, I mean, I couldn't be more happier with this season. Obviously, a lot more left to go, but I mean, it's a lot better than I initially thought preseason. So, can't complain. And I think just going up in the next few years, I can see the light at the end of the tunnel a little bit more. We also don't have Ruben.
Yeah, I was about to say, apologies to Jalen Lowe, but I don't think he's gonna go. Do we want to use him as a placeholder, or we can keep going further for placeholders?
No, we can. Where's he at?
He's at 80.
Okay. Yeah, let's just do that.
Sorry, Jalen Lowe.
Yeah.
But I don't think you're going in our top 60.
Yeah.
Okay, everybody watching, pretend that was Ruben Tinielu who just flashed across your screen.
Yeah. And this was from last big board, too, of the available players, not the one that's going to come out this week. All right, Mavericks, 48. Yeah, I mean, obviously Kyrie's coming back, right? So kind of in the same situation as the Rockets, right? Of just your lead point guard is out for the season, and you're kind of like, okay, we need a point guard, but he's coming back. Kind of that mentality. So it's kind of just, you guys got to wait a little bit. But the Mavericks are in kind of this lull, right? And I think there's a variety of ways you can go here. But I mean, I'm trying to think of like at 48, what do you do in this sense? And kind of a defined role, because it's kind of all over the place. And it's also relatively an older roster, right? When you look at it, I mean, they don't have a lot of key pieces, draft picks, right? I mean, obviously Derek Lively, obviously Cooper Flag, right? But a lot of pieces that they haven't had the chance to develop yet on the younger side. So I think I'm going to I don't think I can do that. That might be a little too crazy. I think I'm just going to do Braden Smith actually here. I think, I mean, at 48, you're getting a guy like Braden Smith, all-time assist leader, right? Proven winner, proven track record, right? Can bring a lot to the table. Obviously, his height is a concern, but he plays a lot bigger than 6 foot, and he makes game-winning plays. I mean, there's a clip circulating on Twitter of him nose diving into the score table, right, just to get a ball, and they're up by like 20 points. I mean, that's the guy you're getting in Braden Smith. And I think at 48 with the Mavericks, you're having a key piece, key draft pick here that you can continue to develop. He can learn under Kyrie Irving, play with Cooper Flag, Derek Lively, Daniel Gafford, Klay Thompson. Obviously, I mean, the list goes on, but I think this is a good pick for them here.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, yes, Kyrie is coming back. He's also never been a pure point guard type. And so, having someone who can play with and without the ball in his hands, who, as you mentioned, is this spectacular assist guy. Yeah, I mean, it makes a ton of sense, especially at this point in the draft. And, maybe there's not a clear starter role for him, but guess what? We're at the 48th pick. There isn't a clear starter role for anybody.
Yeah.
And so, having someone who's more, I mean, he's not like pure pass only kind of guard. Like, he's pass first, not pass only, right? And I think for Dallas in particular, that makes a ton of sense.
Yeah, they need a table setting guy, right? And I think just having Braden Smith there will open up a lot more for them just to start off with. It's a good foundational piece for sure for them in Dallas. All right, Nick, 49th.
49, Denver Nuggets. I'm once again torn between the highest player on my board and someone who I think more directly addresses a need for them. Yeah, I don't know. Denver's had a weird year. It hasn't been quite the same sort of malaise that Orlando's been going through, or Houston, honestly. I think more of a similar comp for Denver, but definitely been a bit of a weird year in kind of ways I wasn't particularly expecting. I'm going to, man, this is tougher than I'd like it to be. I'm going to take sort of a wild swing, but also I'm not sure it's as wild of a swing for this team. I'm going to take Neo Dallas off the board. I mean, at this point, he's entered the transfer portal. Seems all but guaranteed he's going to be playing college basketball somewhere other than Virginia Tech next season. But with his size and his passing vision, I mean, you pair someone like that with Nikola Jokic, and there's going to be some fun had, right? How well it works defensively is very much a question. How well it works with the rest of his offensive game outside of his passing is also definitely a question. But the Nuggets could use someone with size at the guard spots to, be around Jamal Murray. And again, it's hard to go wrong with just putting amazing passing alongside Nikola Jokic. So Abdallas is someone who, had a strong start to the year and fell off pretty quickly in a lot of ways, but I still think that the passing is very real, and it's always going to be fun to have a wonderful passer alongside Nikola Jokic. So I think it's worth it for them to take that chance, especially here with the 49th pick.
Yeah, I mean, you can't really go wrong there, right? And I think a lot of the points that you bring up, I could see a similar situation happen. I mean, if Neo is, still available here, I mean, obviously he's going back to school, but if he were not going back to school, I think the Nuggets could be a great fit for him. So yeah, I like that pick. All right, 50, Nick. We're entering the home stretch. This is the timing, we mentioned it throughout the episode, but it's really a pull of, what the heart wants, but what the head wants too. So, and that can be, a matter of a lot of different things. But I think with the Raptors at 50, obviously we kind of know their mantra at this point, right? Defensive plus size wings that will get after it, have that high motor, are versatile, and will kind of just get after you on the interior and the exterior, right? So I think this guy kind of makes sense. Juke Harris at 50 kind of just fits that Raptors mold. And I think just the improvement he's had from last year to this year too, I think. And I mean, scoring wise, he's been phenomenal, and another deep dives guy. It just feels like we mention that every single time. But yeah, I think he just fits what the Raptors, mantra is, and what they kind of have their whole franchise kind of centered around.
Yeah, I mean, that's the fun of us in particular doing the second round mock draft, right? Is, with two
Yeah.
guys an episode, virtually all of them being second round guys. We've talked about pretty much everybody here.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, let's take one more quick break and then close it out here. All right, I am once again on the board for the Houston Rockets here now with the 51st pick, and I've been putting this off for a while because I know that I'm much higher on him than consensus, and that's why he's still available here at 51, but I can't put off going with my guy Otega any longer. I mean, he's someone who I'm fully bought in on what he can be as a defensive player. I mean, he's just absolute chaos creator. Shots been up and down. He's not quite sort of. I would have hoped for him to take over more in terms of the Kentucky offense this year, purely as a playmaker. I mean, you can see up on the board, right? 19 points a game, pretty solidly efficient offense. He's just someone he's improved every year. There have been so many Kentucky games that I've tuned into where it's like, Otega Owe, 11 points on 4 of 6 shooting. Rest of the team, 9 points on 3 of 37 shooting, or, things like that of like, yeah, this was a really miserable watch of a Kentucky basketball team this year, but I put almost all of the blame for that on people other than Owe. And I mean, he's built like a fire hydrant. He kind of plays like a fire hydrant, but again, his continued improvements as a shooter, even though he didn't quite take the steps forward as a playmaker as much as I would have liked this year, he's still someone who makes solid connected passes, who can help out. And I just see, especially with the return of Fred VanVleet next year, it's very easy for me to see Owe just come in as like, hey, you're going to be our 2-3 off the bench. You're going to guard your ass off on defense and occasionally put up shots. And unlike a lot of players in that archetype, Owe is someone who has enough juice downhill that if he's forced off the 3-point line, he can make things happen. He can get to the basket, he can get to the free throw line, and he can, again, not fantastic as a playmaker, but he can make kick out passes if he's in that situation where he's driving off the 3-point line. So yeah, I mean, as high as I have him, quite a few spots higher than this, but at 51, as you said, I kind of had to go with my heart here and go with Otega Owe.
Yeah, I think, I mean, this was the low of a Kentucky season, right? But Otega-Oweh was kind of that light in instances, right? I mean, and he was taking on such a bigger role than he will in the NBA, and he rose to the challenge, right? He averaged 19 points per game. Obviously, he's not that playmaker that in those settings, right? But I mean, he still averaged 2.3 assists per game, made those connective reads, can make those tough passes, doesn't really look for them as much as you would think, right? But he's not a primary point guard, right? He's a combo guard, and he's with Fred VanVleet. I mean, he's going to get a lot of those opening shots, right? And just good depth off the bench that they can bring in to be, the second guard, right? And he's also a proven leader. I mean, he makes game-winning plays, obviously, in March Madness, right, with one of the most iconic shots as well. But yeah, I think at 50, it's kind of a no-brainer there for him. But I'm kind of in your boat too, Nick, that I think I'm a little higher on him too. So I like the pick.
There we go. Yeah, I think it'll be really fun. I don't know how much they'll try it, but I think small lineups of Fred, Reed Shepherd, Otega-Oweh, and then just, Şengün and Jabari Smith up front.
Yeah.
A lot of scoring in that kind of rotation.
Yeah. And I think that's kind of the pieces that the Rockets need too. And I think Oweh kind of being on the older side too, he has that kind of wear to him too, that he kind of is a plug and play guy that like knows his role and will rise to the occasion. And he's not afraid of, doing the hard, getting his hands dirty type of player. So I think the Rockets makes a lot of sense for him. So now I'm up at 52 with the Wizards. Obviously, the Wizards, the most changed team since in the past year. Obviously, they acquired AD and Trae Young, with AD being out for the season. I mean, who's surprised, right? But yeah, I think obviously making those two acquisitions puts a lot of the eyes on the Wizards, which they haven't had in a very long time. So it's very exciting to be a Washington Wizards fan, and obviously being in good contention for the number one pick in a draft class like this one. So, and I will say, Keyshawn George has been very fun to watch this year. But yeah, this is kind of like we're like trying to nitpick at the 50. So people don't close out here. But every pick matters, guys. So stay tuned. This is taking me longer than I thought.
It's tough. It's tough in this range.
It is tough. I think I'm just going to go with JoJo Tugler, just because I feel pretty okay offensively with the Wizards are at, and at this long, the 52 pick in the draft. I mean, you're getting a guy 6'8", 7'6" wingspan that is just such an outlier defensive prospect, and kind of can play that small ball five, and especially with all the injuries, derailing AD. He's a guy that you want to be available, and he is available. I mean, he played all 40 games last year, and I think he's just a great depth add for them at 52.
Yeah, I think this is a fantastic pick. I mean, looking forward to the future of JoJo Tugler, Alex Sarr as the defensive front line, whether, obviously it's pretty safe to project that Anthony Davis is not going to play, just, unfortunate truth, but that's kind of where we're at. But even if Davis, plays a couple of fully healthy years for the Wizards, having Tugler as the third, fourth big, come off the bench, he could fit in defensively with either of those two guys. And yeah, as you mentioned, I'm much less concerned with the offense for the Wizards than the defense. And yeah, he's going to play and he's going to plug a lot of holes. So no quibbles with it. Fantastic pick. Cool. Now I'm on the board for the Los Angeles Clippers. Yeah, this is an interesting one so you picked Krivas for them already, which makes me less inclined to sort of lean in the big man direction. I'm torn between two players here, and one of them you might be able to guess. The other I think is going to be maybe not so much, but actually both of them are deep dives guys, so little
Nice.
easier to guess on that front, I guess, than anything else. Hmm. Okay, I'm just going to take the swing on someone who I think makes a decent amount of sense with this team, is also pretty high on my board for them at this point. I'm going to go with Andrej Stojakovic here.
Mm.
And if you're just hearing the last name Stojakovic, don't think of this guy as a shooter. That's not what he does best, but he puts a ton of pressure on the rim. He's a really solid defender, got good size at 6'7", puts in the effort as well on that end of the floor. He's someone who I'll just reveal that the other guy I was considering here was Dash Daniels.
Mhm.
And that's much more of a sort of bet on the longer term because he's got a lot of guys in front of him. But I mean, Dash Daniels learning offensively from James Harden and Darius Garland and defensively from Chris Dunn would be a lot of
Mm.
fun. But the Clippers have not traditionally had much room for super young prospects who have a lot to figure out. They tend much more to pick, slightly older prospects who have a lot safer of a floor, I think is the best way that I can put that. So at this point of the draft, I mean, getting Stojakovic as someone who I think comes in pretty close to right away as like a ninth, 10th man for them. They've got a lot of wings in a similar mold, but unfortunately, almost all of them have struggled with injuries to a small or large extent. I mean, Bogdan Bogdanovic will always be my guy, but he has not had the healthiest run of things recently. They did trade for Benedict Mathurin, who certainly would be playing in front of Stojakovic, but when you have the kind of floor spacing and gravity that James Harden, Kawhi Leonard, and Darius Garland provide, having someone who is a real plus defensively while also being a force getting downhill towards the basket, I think would be huge for them. Again, I'm even less bought in on his shot than I was when we first talked about him on Deep Dives because, he ended up shooting like 26% from the year or something like that. But again, if you look past his last name and look at what he actually does on the court, I think there's a lot of reason to believe that his defense and his downhill gravity would be enough of a plus for the Clippers that he'll crack their rotation.
Yeah, and just want to shout out when Albert got to see Illinois in person and Andrej Stojakovic there too. I mean, he mentioned he looks massive for 6'7", and he looks built, big shoulders too, and obviously has those NBA genes, right, too. So, but yeah, I get the pick with him here. So I'm on the board, Bulls again, a lot of reoccurring teams, but with Henry Vassar at 37, 54 for the Bulls. So since we got Henry Vassar, I think I'm going to probably go with Dash Daniels here for the
Yeah.
Bulls. Yeah.
I mean, I certainly
I just
can't argue with it, given that I almost took him at the last pick.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, at this point, like, you're kind of looking at guys that, have an elite skill, if any, right? Instead of, like, a lot of different things, and you kinda know with Dash, like, he's gonna provide value minutes if he ends up, getting those minutes. But with the Bulls, right, it's a lot going on, right? They don't have a clear pathway of what they're trying to do. So I think Dash, he does have flashes off of offensive upside, right? Obviously, his brother's in the league, Dyson. But I think getting him at 54, the Bulls can work with him here. And I think coming into this organization where he does have a lot of time to grow in too, and kind of a lot of opportunity for him too. I think I could see him stepping up to the plate and showing a little bit more than we've seen from him this year.
For sure. I mean, the thing with Daniels is he has one of, if not the highest ceilings of anyone who's still available at this point in the draft. And unlike the Clippers, who have a history of mostly taking older, more solidified prospects, the Bulls are kind of going in new directions in the past year, just purely in terms of trading off all the guys who'd been mainstays of their, treadmill of mediocrity run for the past few years. So, getting an infusion of a much younger player who has a much higher ceiling than you usually get at this point in the draft, I think it makes all the sense in the world. All right, this time I'm picking for the New York Knicks. So my comments from earlier about being grateful that I'm not picking for the Knicks are coming back to bite me, just as I fully could have expected. Sorry, Albert. Sorry, literally everybody who I grew up with who was a Knicks fan. So I'm thinking big, but not necessarily center big. I mean, with Karl-Anthony Towns and Mitchell Robinson, in theory, they have one of the best center rotations in basketball. In practice, unfortunately, Mitchell Robinson's health is always a huge concern. They've certainly seen flashes from Ariel Hukporti, but not anything that would make me steer away from picking a center. I'm only considering not picking a center just purely in terms of there are sort of forward-esque bigs that I have higher on my personal board than most of the centers at this point. I am very tempted to do something exceptionally cheap, and I think I will do it, and I will bring yet another St. John's player back to the New York area and go with Dylan Mitchell here. There are a lot of holes. I'm not pretending otherwise, but with Mitchell, I mean, again, you get one of the best athletes, in the draft, period. You get someone who, really has throughout the course of his career shown a ton as an interior playmaker, as someone who can make all the reads. I mean, he pairs exceptionally well with Karl-Anthony Towns in a lot of ways, which, really is sort of the main motivation behind this pick. I mean, you have Dylan Mitchell in the dunker spot. You have Karl-Anthony Towns spacing the floor. That's a lot of damage that can be done. And honestly, any situation where I'm not sort of very worried about the offense with Dylan Mitchell is a good situation to put him in. And with the Knicks, again, it's one of those things where I think they can cover up for a lot of his offensive holes and let what he does really well on the offensive end, namely just dunk through absolutely everybody and anybody in front of him and also be a really good passer. I think the positive elements of his offensive game would really play well in New York in a way that they wouldn't particularly in many other places. And defensively, I mean, there aren't going to be many better weak side shot blockers available at this range of the draft to help clean things up for Karl-Anthony Towns than Dylan Mitchell. And him and Jalen Brunson running pick and rolls will also be a ton of fun. So I think there are a lot of reasons why this isn't just me saying, hey, let's put the St. John's guy on the Knicks.
Yeah. And I think you and I both kind of picked the most Knicks-esque players with Billy Richmond and Dylan Mitchell. And if I'm a Knicks fan, I'm kind of over the moon for getting those two guys in the second round.
Yeah. Albert and Rucker will be very happy with our second round mocks if they listen. Corey, maybe not so much, but, sorry in advance.
All right. I'm up again at 56 for the Golden State Warriors.
Oh, this is a team that hasn't picked yet. So that's different from.
Yeah. So it's a little more fun, right? There's a player on here, Nick, that we've talked about in deep dives that I can't quite shake. I don't know if you know who I'm talking about, but I'm going to go Donovan Dent here.
Okay. Interesting. Not what I was thinking, but also makes a lot of sense.
I mean, he had a lot of concerns, obviously, with, whenever there's a groin injury or hamstring injury, it's a lot to come back from. And you can kind of see like those lower leg injuries take a lot out of a player to kind of get back to their normal self, right? And we kind of saw that with Donovan Dent. But as we came into conference play in the conference tournament, he really showed up. And obviously, me being a State fan, he absolutely torched us in the Big Ten tournament, right? But that's when you get all of Donovan Dent. That's what he can do on a nightly basis. And I think, Steph's getting close to retiring, right? They're kind of entering this new era where the dynasty is over, right? So what are some key pieces or, players that we know what they can do on the floor that have the upside that we can kind of get those value picks at? And I think Donovan Dent at 56 makes a lot of sense for kind of the Warriors and what they kind of go for. So I think this makes a lot of sense. And obviously with them getting, they have pods to rely on too at in the backcourt. I think Dent is here too. And obviously with Moses Moody getting hurt as well. So there's a lot of moving pieces for the Warriors, but I think this makes sense for them here.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, he's someone who provides two-way value, especially, presuming that he does fully recover from that injury. Certainly he looked better back half of the season than he did the front half of the season. So yeah, no, it makes a lot of sense. Yeah, and as you said, he's also the kind of guard that, they would tend to be interested in. And certainly, with Pods as, someone who's going to be presumably part of their future in the backcourt, having someone who, going back to my standby from earlier, having someone who's not pass only, but pass first, I think makes a lot of sense for them.
Yeah. All right, Nick, you're up at 57. Hawks.
Okay. Yet another team that somehow is not selected in the second round yet. Yeah, Atlanta's also a team that's in a very weird phase of what they're gonna be, and they're hovering around 500 for what feels like the 77th year in a row, which it does. That is certainly an interesting. I do wonder about a lot of things with this team. What I don't particularly wonder about is that they're a team that very much needs big man depth. So I'm just going to take a swing on Big Z here, Zvonimir Ivicic. I mean, he's someone who, he's the highest ranked center on my board at this point. Well, actually, I guess I have Nate Biddle higher, but I don't like the fit with Nate Biddle on this Atlanta team. I mean, with Ivicic, again, he's someone who probably is going to be going back to college for another season, but he has that shooting potential that makes things interesting. But I think certainly early on, it's really just going to be, hey, we don't have any other 7-footers on the roster, and Ivicic is a legitimate 7-foot plus guy who provides that kind of size on the interior. He's not as vicious a shot blocker as I would like, but again, this is just a team that desperately needs size. If he can figure out the shooting in a sort of real way going forward, this is a steal of a pick at 57. Even if he doesn't, just having someone other than Jock Landale and technically Christian Coloco's on the roster, having someone else who can presumably fill some of those big man minutes going forward, it's easy to see him playing on this team, especially given that the future of Onyeka Okongwu seems weirdly up in the air in a way that maybe I wouldn't be feeling personally if I were in the Atlanta front office, but since that's certainly something that there's been rumblings about for years now, getting someone other than Jock Landale and Mo Gay to fill out the center rotation, I think makes a lot of sense.
And I think with Big Z too, fit is so important for him too. We're talking about the 57th pick, but I mean, he could easily go undrafted too, right? Or two-way. And I think at the very least, he'll get a cup of coffee in the NBA. And it's his, with Illinois, right? It's his third school in 3 years, has kind of stayed consistent over the 3 years. But I mean, if you're looking at a guy that provides real length and size, and you need that of just a center that can come out and provide that for you and can kind of be that piece in the middle that can rebound, be that connective edge there at the center spot, I think it makes sense for them here at 57.
All righty, who are you on the board
Right.
with? Ooh, New Orleans.
Pelicans at 58. They're kind of in that Hawks Magic type of realm, Nick, of just kind of they need kind of that oomph to them again in a way, kind of that resurgence. I'm talking about resurgence and it's literally the 50th pick, but I don't know. It's just, they just need something that makes people feel excited again. especially with them being kind of like a small market team too, right? They kind of just need that edge to them again, just because they've kind of been through a roller coaster of emotions, especially with Zion. So I think for them, the biggest need here is they need a guard, right? So I think Jaden Bradley actually makes a lot of sense here.
I was certain that you were going to pick Jaden
Yeah,
Bradley.
yeah. I kind of like had that like lure of like, oh, am I going to take him? But yeah, no, I was eyeing him. I think this makes a lot of sense. And if you're getting Jaden Bradley at 58, that's a win in my book, to keep it short and sweet.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, just someone who provides that.
Yeah,
Provides that winning ethos, energy, any sort of word that you want to use to fill in for that. Just, get a little bit of air back in the building. I mean,
yeah.
I think he's someone who you get at 58 and is very high on the list of how did that guy fall there?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, with what New Orleans has and what they need, I mean, yeah, I completely get it. All right, Minnesota Timberwolves. Not that he hasn't already, but this will definitely be what would cause Tyler Metcalf to disown me if I screw up here. So no pressure. Yeah, this is an interesting team to pick for in a lot of ways. In that it hasn't been anywhere near as bad as sort of the top tier people we've mentioned of it's been a weird year. But it has low key kind of been a weird year in Minnesota in a way that makes this exercise interesting. I think I'm going to go with Paul McNeil here. I'll go with that. He's someone who has the size on the wing, has shown a lot of different things. Again, there's been some inconsistency with him. Certainly, it was an even weirder year at NC State than it was for the Minnesota Timberwolves. But getting someone like McNeil here at 59, I mean, he's someone who's very much in that range of getting towards the end of the draft. And it's like, if this guy isn't taken, he's going to be a priority two-way target for a lot of teams. And again, he's not quite the connected passer that maybe Minnesota would want on the wing, but I mean, he's got the size, he's got the athleticism. He's someone who I think can fill a lot of gaps for a team. And certainly the Wolves have looked thinner on the sort of 2-3 realm this year than maybe I would have expected. So yeah, I mean, I think he's someone who makes a lot of sense for a lot of teams, and certainly Minnesota in particular is somewhere that, it's relatively easy for me to envision him being their 10th man next year.
Yeah, no, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, as you mentioned, adds a little bit more size off the perimeter, shooting 42% from three, which is a massive jump from last year to this year, right? And has that athleticism. And he's also a career 80% free throw shooter too. So I think if you're getting that type of scoring juice at the second to last pick in the draft with size, it makes a lot of sense.
All right, here we are. Grand finale, Paige.
Here we are. Hopefully I don't screw this up, guys. But the Wizards are on the board again with the 60th pick. Obviously, pick JoJo Tugler at 52nd. So, let's see.
Go with your heart.
Go with my heart.
Hey, you were the one that said it first.
Oh, I know. I mean, kind of at this point at 60, it's kind of like,
yeah.
It
does help that it's
John Blackwell.
Okay.
I'm gonna go John Blackwell. He's kind of one of my guys this year, and obviously, I mean, we're kind of like a record player at this point. But another two times, guys, I think John Blackwell at 60. I think he's the top 60 players in this draft when it kind of comes down to it. Obviously, I think the Wizards are a little bit on the low end, defensive end. I think they have the offensive end covered, but I think Blackwell is a good piece here for the Wizards at 60.
Yeah, I mean, it makes a lot of sense just in the notion of maybe there were some other teams available that, were going to have it be a little bit more difficult of a fit with him. But both the good news and the bad news for the Wizards is, hey, it's hard to find someone who doesn't fit, in the sense of there really isn't all that much that's sort of heavily established that he's not going to be, there's not going to be someone who's entrenched that there's no way he's going to get to play over. So yeah, shout out to my guy now and forever, Isaiah Thomas, with the 60th pick. I think John Blackwell can very much live up to that legacy.
Yeah. Nice.
We did it.
We did it. If we want to do a quick recap, I mean, obviously people can see on YouTube, but for those that are listening on Spotify and Apple, at 31st, Flory Badunga, 32, Billy Richmond, 33, Zuby Ejiofor. Actually, I'm not going to do that. I think that's going to kind of be redundant. But I think we should just pick out our favorite pick that we did individually in the second round.
That's fun. Well, I mean, obviously I am biased in the sense of getting Flory Badunga at 31 as someone who I think is a mid first round guy. That's a pickup that I'm going to be very happy with. I also do like where Otega ended up. I think I'm proud of my patience in terms of not picking him like 10 picks earlier. And instead, I think he goes to a situation that makes a lot more sense for him. So yeah, I think those are my two highlights. What about you?
I agree. Yeah, I mean, people know I love Billy Richmond, and I think I was just like foaming at the mouth to take him at 32 with the Knicks. But I mean, it's like the perfect fit for him. And I think another one of my favorites too was Ivan Karchekov for the Celtics. I mean, you mentioned you thought I was going to take him earlier, but I think that's a home run for the Celtics at 40 with him there. And I think he's just going to continue to get better and better. And I think in a redraft in a couple years, it's going to be like, how the hell did this guy, fall that low in the second round? So,
yeah. In that vein, I also think that, again, assuming full return to health and all that, but if San Antonio gets JT Toppin at 45, there are going to be riots 2 or 3 years from now.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Anything else?
No, all good.
All right, that will wrap up this marathon episode for us. So thank you all so much for tuning in. If you've been enjoying the show, please be sure to subscribe on whatever podcast player you might be using, or if you're checking us out on YouTube, be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. She is Paige Otto. You can find her on social media at Paige Otto _. You can find me on social media at NBA Johnson. And again, the big board that we based this mock draft on will be coming out between the audio and video versions of this podcast. So be sure to be on the lookout for that as well. And if you've been enjoying the deep dive specific episodes, feel free to reach out to either of us via the aforementioned social media channels, or you can send me an email, nickaj.nba@gmail.com. And as always, thanks so much for listening.